welcome back, everybody. I hope you're feeling refreshed after bronze session. That was really cool. I'm just going to very quickly introduce Ofer. I was introduced to him about 3 years ago, I think, by Bill Pettit, when Bill had the idea to record, here's Bill now, to record The Missing Link, which was a book by Sydney Banks, and there were 5 of us that had done it. All 5 of us are actually going to be here today at various different stages, and Ofer was one of the people on that set of recordings, which is now freely available. So we'll send a link out for that too. So yeah, Ofer, over to you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, Dave. I just saw Bill come in. Hi, Bill. Bill was one of my first and most important teachers. So I'm very excited to be here with you all. My name is Ofer. I'm from Israel. And I was actually, wait 1 second. Sorry. I was actually, I'm going to tell you today about my experience with the principles. Today I work, ever since I was exposed to the principles, I started going on a route that led me to be a clinical psychologist. So today I'm in my 3rd year of clinical psychology. I'm also doing my PhD. I've been doing research for the past few years about resilience, post-traumatic growth and attachment. And for the past 10 years, I've been running a resilience and empowerment program in the largest injured combat veterans organization in Israel, which has been going great for the past 10 years. And we keep growing all the time, unfortunately, but also very fortunately. Wait, I have a problem here. I can't seem to, okay, never mind. Do you hear me well?
We can hear you, yeah.
Okay. So for me, as I said, I was a paratrooper in the army. That was 2040, so that was 20 years ago. And 5 years, 3 years after, 5 years, after I was discharged, I was called for reserve in Israel. The Second Lebanon War broke out, and I just came back from a few years abroad. War was completely not something I was prepared for, and I found myself going into Lebanon. You know, as I was in the middle of my bachelor studies, and the second thing I remember, it's like, you know, one thing I was like doing studies and everything. And the second thing, I'm in the middle of Lebanon in an ambush. I lost my eye and I'm surrounded with like 9 dead friends and 28 more injured in a combat that lasted for like 6 hours in the middle of Lebanon. And because most of us were injured, I had to stay in control. Okay, I had to function. So I found myself treating my friends, and a lot of my friends died in my arms while I'm very injured myself. And luckily, I was able to maintain control. Okay, that was a very I didn't lose control. I was in the space, in the zone. I was actually feeling very calm because I mean I felt a lot of things. There's a reason I'm speaking about it, but I remember I felt like anger and fear and everything, but they were like in the back of my mind, and I was feeling calm as I was doing what I was supposed to do. And eventually we got back to Israel. As I said, 9 of my friends died, 28 more were injured in horrible ways. And I tried to get back to life. I spent 3 months in the hospital. And after 3 months, I got back to university to work. I used to work with the autism then, with like people on the spectrum. And pretty soon I started having this things. You know, I didn't have a name for it yet, but I started having like flashbacks in the middle of class. And I used to freak out, and I used to get anxiety attacks, and I used to get like rage outbursts. And I would find myself in the middle of university, and suddenly I'm in flashback, and someone is touching me, and I'm flying a chair all over, and then I'm running out of university, and I don't want to go back, you know. And I think in a matter of few months, I went from being like working, studying, in a relationship, everything, to having nothing. I mean, I was scared to get out of the house because something might happen. And I found myself from a person who was like in full control of his life to a person who can't control not his thinking, not his emotions, not his behavior. And that freaked me out. I mean, pretty soon, so at first it was like living in total anxiety, but afterwards I started becoming depressed because I was in constant helplessness, and I had a very how do you call it? Like I was very self-criticized. I criticized myself very badly, and I found myself depressed, suicidal even most of the time, and unable to work, unable to form a relationship, and it kept like this for a few years. And I think the first year was the worst. I mean, I lost everything. I lost contact with my friends, with my family, everything. I became almost completely alone. My luck was that I was introduced to a few other veterans who just started forming an organization. The organization which I'm part of today was called Brothers for Life. And they came and they said, listen, come abroad to us to the States, and let's have some fun and everything. I don't know how, but they said yes. And one thing led to the other, and I think like a year after that, I met Bill Petit and Jody, which is also going to speak here today, and they introduced me to the principles for the first time, and it had a huge effect on me. It really, I'm going to say that before the war, I spent a lot of years studying Buddhism and mindfulness and everything, and I remember before I was injured, I thought I was like kind of Buddha, you know. I said I got everything working, but it didn't work. And when I was introduced to the principles and later to Sydney Banks himself, they kind of were able to simplify the same things I heard before, but different and much more simpler in a way I could interact with. I could listen to from a different place, and it had a profound effect on me, even transformative. And I started. I found myself wanting to deepen my understanding. So I remember I used to go back to the States to meet Bill. He even came to us to Israel once, which was with Keith, which was an amazing experience. And after some times, I was offered to come and study with Aaron and Mara from. They made a program for facilitators. I think it was with the One Thought Institute, which also was very, very powerful. And I remember coming back to Israel, and one of the guys in the foundation came to me and he said, Ofer, listen, I remember you. You were one of, we in the meantime, we grew, okay? We became larger. And there was one guy who came to me and he said, listen, Ofer, I remember you. You were one of the most disturbed people here. And suddenly I see you walking around here and you look better. And I'm going to be hospitalized, Susan, and it's going to be my 4th time, and I don't want to do it again. So maybe you can share with me what you discovered, and you know, maybe it can help me. And I was like, no way, go away. You know, I was trying to get rid of him, and he was very persistent. And he came to my house, and eventually I sat and I started sharing with him what I learned about the principles and my own experience. And it really resonated with him. It had a profound effect on him. And he went and he told another guy in the foundation, and this guy told another guy, and this guy told another guy. And I found myself sharing my experience with groups because there were a lot of them. And eventually it became the program it is today. But for me, it was like a journey because it didn't all came at once. I mean, I was still suffering for years after years, and I think it took me a while to understand what I'm sharing with others because it helped me, but in the same time I was still suffering. But I saw that as time progressed, my periods of suffering would become shorter, and I slowly starting having more control over my life, which mean I started working again slowly, and eventually I went back to study. I finished my my clinical psychology master's and everything, and until for me the top of the line was 5 months ago. I had my first daughter born, which was something I was very scared of, and I was like delaying it, and I will speak about it because I think it has something very important. So I talked in the beginning about control, and I said I had control, I lost control. So for me, the principles, if I want to sum it up in one word, I'm going to speak about control. Okay, for me, after I was injured, what was traumatic for me was besides the event was the loss of control, the fact that I didn't have any control over nothing anymore, which is very funny when you think about it, because we don't have control over nothing in our life, but before something disastrous happens to you, you don't realize that. Okay, but suddenly when something big like that happens and you see all your friends die around you, you can't shake the notion that something bad is going to happen. So you didn't have control before, but now you understand that you don't have control, and that freaks you out. Okay, and my efforts to regain control over my life, that was the reason I was suffering so much, and that's what the principles taught me, and I'm going to explain. Like in the Dave spoke about thought, and for me it was like a reverse order. The first principle that I realized was thought, and then I realized consciousness, and only like I think 2 years ago I realized the principle of mind profoundly to have I think the biggest effect on me. But I'm going to stay with thought now. So I realized that my thinking was a way to control, to try to gain control, which means, let's say I'm going to have something happening tomorrow, something I'm scared of. Okay, so my way of trying to get control was to worry about it all the time. I used to worry and worry and worry and worry, and it used to be my imagination. Now, what does it mean to get worried? It means using your imagination and imagining all the worst thing that can happen. Okay, and that would freak me out and cause anxiety. Okay, but I couldn't see it. I was in my thinking all the time, picturing all the things that could happen, or I would go like things that I do, and I would run them in my head over and over and over again, like I can change what happened. What I can change what happened in the war. I can change what happened yesterday when I had a fight and I broke something, and I was trying to. It took me a while to realize that actually I'm using my thinking to trying to control stuff I can't control, which was a way not to deal with emotions like helplessness, like fear, like sadness. Okay, so even like guilt. Okay, like shame. Okay, so if I'm like if my girlfriend would come and say I did something wrong, I couldn't handle with the shame, so I would completely lash out on her. I would be angry all the time. And if there was something I couldn't I couldn't I give an example, like if there were like when I was like if I couldn't deal with the fact that I'm not perfect, my thinking would immediately go to you suck, you're the worst person in the world, and that would cause depression. Okay, and that immediately. So every time something, I would use my thinking to try to control. Am I making myself clear this point, because it's very important? Okay, so my first understanding was that I'm using my imagination and my thinking actually not in a good way. Okay, and that was I think the first and biggest like direction, because the second thing I did was to try to control outer circumstances. Okay, so if I would be afraid to go on a bus, so I wouldn't go on buses, and if I was afraid to have an anxiety attack out of the house, so I wouldn't go out of the house. Again, I was trying to control my inner experience by trying to manipulate outer circumstances. Okay, so there was two ways I was trying to control, either trying to control my circumstances, or I used to go to my thinking to trying to control emotions that I don't want to feel. Okay, and as I deepened my understanding in the principles, I realized that we don't have control. Okay, I think Bron spoke about it very, very beautifully. And for me, it was about agreement. Okay, it was about agreeing to feel fear. It was about agreeing to feel helplessness. It was about agreeing to understand that I'm not perfect, that I have PTSD. Okay, which was before it was a notion that I wasn't even sure about it. I was like, something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm not okay. And that would freak me out. I would go into hours and hours of debate with, I have PTSD. I don't have PTSD. Something is wrong with me. And I would find every small thing to trying to go into self. I would ruminate about it for hours, and that would freak me out. And the minute I realized that, first of all, I don't have to control my outer circumstances, and I don't have to control my feelings. I can just let things be. Okay, and that happened as a result of understanding of the principles. And I think I'm gonna give you when I started seeing the difference was like this. One of the things I got a present from the war is that when something when there's a big boom next to me, something explodes. I immediately go into a startle reaction. Okay, very big one, very not proportional to everything. I can sit with people and suddenly I will be, like shouting and flying under a chair. But I remember I was in the foundation, I was sharing my experience with another guy, and there was a big boom outside. And we both I had a startle reaction. But for me, I had the startle reaction and I calmed down after 10 seconds. But for him, he started did you see that? Did you see that? That was, you see, that was very scary. That was before, because I'm post-traumatic, I got scared, you understand? I'm not good. It's going to be like that for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, I'm not going to be okay. And he went into this cycle of thinking, and he had an anxiety attack and everything. And that was the first time I realized, okay, that's the difference. Okay, we both had the same experience. We both had this boom coming and the startling, but I didn't go into this high way of thinking about it like he did. And 1 minute after the boom, I was completely calm, and he was full on an anxiety attack. Okay, and when I was able to show him what was happening, he immediately calmed down as well, because he realized that he's causing his suffering. He's doing it. So that was the first thing I realized, and then I understood that. I think Bron spoke about it also. I do free diving. It's free diving when you go into the water and you don't need without scuba, yeah. And I think for me, I realized that when you go down, so after 30 seconds, 1 minute, the body wants to go up, okay, because the carbon in your body goes up, so the body wants to go up, but it's only it's a false alarm, because you can stay for another 5 minutes and there's no problem. You just need to understand that you don't need to react. You don't have to go up. You can just wait, look at it, and you calm yourself down, and it will go away. And I realized it's the same about anything. My body reacts, and then in an attempt to gain control, everything, the siren goes on, and it goes into the thinking and everything. And it's like Boone said, if I just wait and let it go, I would go back to myself, being myself. And the difference between thinking when you're when you're aroused and thinking when you're calm is that when you're aroused and you're in alert mode, so your thinking becomes very black and white. It's either enemy or friend. It's either I'm gonna die or I'm gonna survive. Everything becomes very hectic. So you don't get a clear picture of reality. And to compare, when you calm down, you start seeing all the layers of reality. You are able to understand the complexity of things, but you can do it in a calm and peaceful and actually simple way. But because you can see it, you don't have to think about it. You just see it as it is. And that's what happened to me. I started seeing things. I remember I used to, instead of freaking out and trying to find solutions to everything, I would just wait. I would just allow myself to freak out, but without having the need to do something about it. I would just freak out. Sometimes I would freak out for 10 minutes, sometimes for 1 hour, sometimes for 2 days. Okay, but I would agree to freak out, and eventually, and then what it did, I stopped causing harm, because when I was freaking out, I used to hurt people. I used to, quit jobs. I used to do all kinds of stuff that wasn't good for me. And then I realized, okay, I don't have to react. I can just wait for my body to calm down, my mind to become more peaceful, and then I can respond in a much more in a wiser way. Okay, and I think for me, I told you about having a daughter lately. So for me, the biggest, I was scared of having a daughter, because I worked with veterans for many years, and I saw that when they got their first child, they would either detach themselves from emotions, or they go into the deep depression. And I saw it again and again and again, coming back with veterans, and I was scared it would happen to me. And when my daughter was born like 5 months ago, so I remember I saw her and I immediately fell in love. And that's when it hit me that if it would happen like 5 years ago, I would have been detached, or I would go into depression because I couldn't handle the emotion, because it wasn't only love. It was love, and it was fear, and it was excitement, and it was unknowing what's going to happen. It's a helplessness. It's a lot of emotion mixed together. But because because I was familiar with the principles, and I was just able to feel all those emotions coming through me, and I didn't have to detach myself or either go into depression, which is another sort of detachment. And I could just stay in the experience. So sometimes it was a good experience, sometimes it was a bad experience, but I always remained Ofer in that experience. And that made a big difference, because I realized that when you start closing it's all about dissociation. It's all about when you start closing your emotions, when you don't want to feel certain emotions, so you're not going to feel any emotions, not bad emotions and not good emotions. And by agreeing to feel the bad emotions, and I'm using that because it's not really bad emotions, it's just another experience, I was able to open my heart to feeling love and to feel compassion and to feel joy, which were before unavailable to me. Okay, you said 20 minutes, so that's 20 minutes. Okay, I hope I made sense and I was clear. I'm sorry about my broken English.
No, your English is perfect. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Ofer? Bill looks like he does. You're on mute, Bill.
Ofer, is really don't have a question. I just I'm really touched to hear about your daughter.
Thank you.
And about I'm just really happy for you.
Thank you.
I met Ofer actually 13 years ago, 2008, November 1st to the 13th. I was in Israel with the Rabbi Chaim Levine, and it's amazing. This 13 years ago, Ofer. There was 27 of you, and now there's over 1,100.
More, yeah, 1,200, I think.
1,200 from 27 that started that weekend at the kibbutz. Amazing, yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Anyway, that's all. Just congratulations. Thanks for your sharing from the heart.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. It was a pleasure to see you.
I've got a question for you, Ofer. You mentioned that you're finding, or you know, through the Brotherhood, you've got groups of veterans talking together. And for me, what I've been experiencing is it's been a bit of a struggle potentially to get people comfortable to come into a group setting, and almost struggle with the idea of listening to someone else, let alone being prepared to share. So in your experience, what have you seen that that has allowed people to be able to share in a group setting, or come into it in the first place? And what do you think the benefits of that are for them when they do?
Okay, so that's actually a very good question. I have a very big strategy. I have a good strategy for that, which is the strategy I use. A lot of the guys, they're like warriors. They don't want to speak. They don't want to share their experience. They don't want to talk about emotions. God forbid. And for me, I realized I can make it easier for them if I just speak about my experience. So sometimes for the first group meeting or two, I'm just going to speak about my experience, not the positive, just my entire experience, how I go on through life. And by listening to my experience without talking about them at all, just speaking about my experience, they are able to find themselves in my words, in my descriptions. And they can say, wow, this happens to me. And wow, this happens to me. And I know this, and this happens to me. And then, they come after that and they said, wow, I felt like you really know me. And so because what I realized, I worked so far, I think, with like 400 of the guys, either in a group or a personal setting, and what I realized is that we're all kind of the same. Everyone has a little bit like this, but it's like everyone have the same thing. They're all having like thoughts about reality, and then they believe in their thinking, and then they act upon it. And we actually use the same thinking patterns to try to control our experience. So I found that most of the guys, and I think Bill Petit in one of the conference I spent, you did like a chart. Yeah, you don't remember that, but I've been using that chart ever since. Like I changed it a little bit to fit my own needs, but so I just introduced like thinking patterns. I introduced to the guys. I showed them like how worrying and thinking about the others, and how resentment, and how self-criticism, and how they affect us. We use them. I do it in a very systematic way. I use like a graph sometimes, and it's very simple for people to understand. And when they see that, they're like, oh wow, that's exactly what I'm doing. Wow. And then they calm down, because first they understand that they're not alone in that. They understand that it's not such a unique experience. Wow, if he understands me, and if it's in a group settings and you see that everyone are doing like this with their head, you immediately calm down, because you understand, okay, I'm not as bad as I think I am. I'm actually okay. If they're all thinking like me, it means I'm not such an alien. I'm not. And this gives them like, first of all, they're not alone anymore, because one of the things about PTSD, it's like you feel alone, you feel estranged, you feel detached, and suddenly you feel connected again. And when you feel connected again, it's the first step of starting to understand your wisdom, and because it's true connection that we understand that. So for me, I just share my experience, but I do it in a way that people can identify, and I try to simplify it as much as I can. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone have another question for Ofer?
I'm Ofer. I'm curious. And thank you for your story. I've heard so many. I'm relatively 3 years, I guess, with three principles, but I've noticed that there's been a lot of psychiatrists that have discovered the three principles, and then they've kind of changed a little bit about their practice, and it's kind of interesting and refreshing that you're going into the practice, like you're going through your bachelor's program and things like that. I'm curious how is that evolving for you with this?
Okay, that's a good question. So first of all, I finished my. I'm in master. I finished my master's, and I'm after 3 years of internship. We do 4 years of internship. So, and I have to say, at first it was a struggle, because I came thinking like, wow, I understand everything, but that was again my ego, and I realized that when you listen to things and when you look at things, eventually everything combines. So I found the understanding of the principles. It actually helped me. It helped me. Okay, I'm gonna do it like this. I work as a clinical psychologist for people either with trauma or with severe psychotic symptoms. People who deal with really hard psychosis. And I realized that what I do is that I can use like psychoanalytic tools sometimes if I want to make sense of things, to understand why the person next to me is acting the way it is, and I can use some interventions that I learned from my psychology and psychiatry in order to reach the person in front of me. But eventually, what I'm going to lead into is to the understanding of the principles. So I just see it as I have like a broader set of tools, so I can use, but the goal remains the same. You can use sometimes different languages, I can use different techniques, but the goal remains the same. Yeah, I hope it answers. I mean, it didn't change much. I thought it would at first. It was a big like, what, they don't understand anything. I don't know, but it was actually now like I can see they kind of interact, and also like there's a lot of there's the new wave of psychotherapy, which I think really corresponds with the principles, especially all the new wave CBT techniques and everything, the acceptance and commitment therapy, and the somatic experience, and a lot of stuff that I think they correspond. I don't see the difference so much, to be honest. I just think that the principles, it's not a technique for healing people. It's just like describing something. Okay, you describe. I remember when I was there, they always said they use the gravity as an example. When you speak about gravity, you just describe gravity. It doesn't mean. So for me, understanding of the principles was describing how the world works. And inside you can do different things, but as long as you understand how the world works, so for me, like learning the principles was to understand, not to take myself too seriously, not to take my thinking too seriously, which is I can tell you as a psychotherapist, it's a huge thing. It's a huge advantage, okay? Because I think when stuff when stuff go wrong is when I think I know stuff. It's when I think I look at someone and say I know how I can help him. That's when everything goes wrong. So the principles they assist me in keeping my staying in a modest approach, to understand that I really don't know, and just to watch and to observe, and to understand that when the time comes, I will know what to do. I hope it answers your question.
Oh, it did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bill, I see you've got your hand up. You're still on mute, Bill.
You're still on mute.
Trying here. Yeah. I do have a question. Ofer, you mentioned, and it certainly is not uncommon for all of us in our journey with the principles. You mentioned that it was just 2 years ago that you really started to have a deeper appreciation of the principle of mind. And I'm wondering if you, to whatever degree you feel comfortable, just to talk about what that's been for you and what that's meant for you. The other thing is that I know it's in the course. I remember how powerful it was when you shared that story of going to Barcelona with your two friends.
Yeah.
Coming out of the airport and the fireworks exploding, and that you knew somehow just to sit on the curb and do nothing and let it pass. But anyway, those were my two questions. I'm wondering what your experience of starting to get a glimpse, as we all do, just glimpses of the principle of mind, what that's meant to you.
Okay. So I'm gonna like deconstruct it. I think so. I said at first I was focused on my thinking, which was very good. I understand that my thinking is just my thinking, but I still had my thinking. I mean, and I remember I used to always I always fell into the trap of trying to control my thinking, because it's like it happens spontaneously. You try to control your thinking, or you don't want to think certain thoughts, or you blah blah blah. And then I started to get a glimpse of consciousness, which meant that when I'm in different states of consciousness, I get different kind of thinking. Okay, and that really helped me not to take my thinking too seriously, because I realized that when in a low state of consciousness, I don't need to take my thinking too seriously. And that was great, because I realized that, first of all, I realized that during the day I have like maybe 20 minutes where I can take my thoughts seriously. And most of the time it was like, don't listen to it. But it stayed like this, and it was very problematic, because it kept my change and my transformation to the surface, which means I was able to function in real life, but inside I was really suffering. I was still suffering. I still wanted to die all the time, to be honest, really. And I used to wake up like in the morning, like, not being able to breathe and everything. I was just better at doing stuff, but while suffering. And when I started getting a glimpse of mind, I realized that, and it's hard to put it into words because it's kind of like a spiritual understanding, but I realized that, and that was actually what I started, that I'm not in control. That everything I experience and everything, not only my thinking, but everything I experience, which was actually my thinking, but it comes from the world I see. It comes from, I don't know, I think Keith always talks about it. It comes from the inside out. Okay, the world I see, my experience, it doesn't come from the outside in. It's not the experience of the world. It's me creating my own experience in the world. And I realized that I thought it was me creating it, but then when I realized mine, I realized that even though I'm creating it, it's not me who's creating it. I'm the person behind who's watching the creation of my experience being created, but I don't have to. It's not me. It's like, how can I explain it? It's like you can sit in a train and you can watch like the scenery goes by, and it can be like either good scenery or bad scenery, but you can just watch it, and enjoy it and think about it, and you can don't like it or not like it, doesn't matter. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but if what I'm trying to get it is that when I got a glimpse of mine, I realized it's very simple. That what's the principle is pointing to us is very, very simple. It's so simple, it's very hard to comprehend. But for me, understanding of mine was to understand that where I am at this moment is okay. Nothing, I don't need to change anything. I don't have to like it, but I don't have to change it. Okay, and for me, that happened when I understood mine. I can't really explain what it means to understand mine. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that wherever I am, it's okay. And it's a feeling that I have to find from moment to moment. It's not like I had this realization, but I find that ever since I got this understanding, it's really hard for me. It's like going back to state zero. I don't know. It's like every moment I can, okay, everything is okay now. Okay, everything is okay now. So I don't know. That for me, that was the understanding of mine. It's like understanding that everything is happening the way it's supposed to. I don't know. It sounds like New Age, blah blah blah. But this is it's something you feel. I don't know. Thanks. I hope that was I don't know. I hope I was able to pass my my experience.
That was really helpful of her. Thank you. Bill's second question about your trip to Barcelona. It would be cool to hear if that's your view of that has changed at all since your understanding of mind.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell this. I'm gonna repeat my story. When I first got to Barcelona, that was actually the first trip I went on alone. Okay, after I was injured, I wouldn't go abroad on my own. I would only go with groups and stuff because I was scared to. I don't know. I was just scared. Okay, and the first time I decided I'm gonna go alone, I got to Barcelona. I went to visit a friend's house. And I got to a place where there was like this neighborhood. I forgot the name of it, but it was a huge festival. That the thing about the festival was that they used firecrackers, a lot of them, not proportional to anything, And I was standing in the middle of the square, and from all the sides, like huge figures with firecrackers are coming at me. And I find myself freaking out, having a flashback, wanting to run away, but to my friend's house, back to the airport, whatever, I just went to fight or fight mode, and I remember that's when it hit me, wait. That's exactly what I've been talking about all the time, just wait. And I remember I just stood, and I remember I sat down on the curb like Bill said, and I just realized that I saw my heart is beating, and I saw my breath was fast, and I saw my thoughts were racing. I have to get out. Why did I come here? Blah, 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 blah. And I realized that I don't have to do anything. I mean, I'm not, my body says I'm in danger. My thoughts, my thinking says I'm in danger, but I'm not in any danger. And I just decided to wait. Okay. And I remember I waited for like, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 or 5 minutes, and I was really sweating. And as I was waiting, I saw that I was very aroused, you know, my body was like agitated, but it kind of transformed. And from being like really scared and wanting to run away, I suddenly became really happy, and the same arousal, but my interpretation of it changed. So instead of being scared and thinking I was in life-threatening situation, I was like, "Wow, this is so exciting! I can't believe I'm in this great festival around me," and I was like happy and laughing, and I was actually crying out of happiness, you know. So it was the same experience. And it happened alone. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to wait and witness it without without doing like a judgment. This is bad, this is good, or just I was just curious about I remember I was curious about my experience in my body, in my thought, but I didn't identify with them. I just watched them, you know, and it was and that was a very, very, very huge moment for me, because it actually was the first time I felt, okay, so I am in control. I mean, I'm not in control, but I am in control, because by not doing anything, I actually gain the sense of control, which is a sense. Control is a sense. When you have the sense of control, you calm down. So, and that was an amazing experience.
Thank you. That was really cool. Are there any more questions for Ofer?
If there aren't any more questions, so I just want to say that for all you guys out there, or girls or whatever, who are dealing with PTSD, okay, and when I got PTSD, everyone told me, listen, you can't, it's going to be for the rest of your life, you're going to suffer. And I remember I really believed that. I thought I was even teaching it, you know. I was saying, listen, you're suffering from PTSD, you're going to suffer for the rest of your life. I remember because I was traumatized. The army was not my first trauma. I was traumatized in my life a lot of time in my mandatory service. And when I was a kid, I had a very rough childhood. And I remember I was once in a group, and this one of the group leaders, not counselors, he told me, listen, Ofer, you're going to suffer for the rest of your life, because you don't only have PTSD, you also have like a personality disorder, because you've been traumatized so many times in your life, and you're going to be depressed forever. That's what he said. You're going to be depressed forever. And I was like sitting, I was 25, and I was like, oh shit, I'm going to be depressed forever. and I really believe that. And that's how I walked in life, that feeling that I'm depressed. I've been depressed ever since I was like 6 years old. And so there's no reason why it's going to change. And luckily, it's not it's not how I feel today. And I actually see that this understanding that we're talking about, it's when I first was introduced, I had this I had 6 months of bliss. Okay, I was in bliss. I was like, wow, I figured out everything. I know how to win this life. But after 6 months, it kind of like went away, and I went down back into depression. And I was thinking that, oh shit, this is not working. Something is wrong. And I really freaked out, and I panicked, and I completely threw the principles away. But afterwards, I was lucky enough to reintroduce and get back. And I found it's like a spiral. I mean, the more you deepen your understanding, the more your life will change. And the thing is you just need to keep going. You need to keep going and not give up. Okay. I see people that give up too soon. I see people that too soon they said, oh, okay, this is what's going to happen. And they just let go, and they just accept the fact that and I want to tell all you out there that don't give up. Okay, don't give up. I mean, even if everyone tells you you're going to suffer for the rest of your life, it's just looking to the right direction, which is actually inside. Yeah, but and you just have to point you have to look again and again and again and again. It's like those 3D pictures, which for me, unfortunately, I can't see them because you're required to be bifocal. But when you look at them long enough, eventually they come out of the picture, and you see like a 3D image. So it's exactly the same. You just need to watch it long enough in the right direction, and eventually you're going to see it. And it might take a month. I met guys who understood it after like 2 meetings, And I met guys who took 10 years. For me, it took a lot of years to get a real grounding, to feel grounded, and to be able to and it's really big when you feel grounded, like really grounded. It's a game changer. So just don't give up. Don't give up. And if you feel lost, just find the person who can point you again in the right direction, and you're gonna be okay. So thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was, what a wonderful way to finish off your session just now. That was wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, you're getting the love from everybody, which is cool.
Thank you.
And yeah, congratulations.
All we need is love.
That's fantastic news. Right, we're gonna take another 15-minute break. Paul will put you all back in the waiting room, just so that we can catch up with Bill quickly and make sure he's comfortable with starting off. And we will see you on the hour at 1600 UK time. Thanks again.